Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about the 10 things that I dislike about living in my car. Now this list of 10 things, there are solutions to most of these problems, but living in a car definitely makes these problems a lot more difficult to solve. Personally, I'm not willing to invest the time or money into this car to solve some of these problems. So my number 10 reason why I don't enjoy living in my car is there is a certain kind of social stigma against living in your car, especially coming from a large city. So I get people, friends, family members asking, if I'm okay, if I'm just like completely homeless, which I'm not. At least I don't consider myself homeless because I have a car, I have a shelter, I have everything I need. So it's very different from what you would expect as a homeless person. I'm choosing to live this way. I could rent an apartment if I wanted, but I think it's a complete waste of money, so I don't. So with all that said, there is a very strong stigma against living in your car, and you really have to be aware of that and be fighting that every day. So my number 9 reason why I don't like living in a car is common to a lot of my reasons why I don't like living in a car. Changing clothes is a lot more difficult when you live in a car because either you have to do it in a public restroom or in a shower or something like that, or you end up having to try to dig through your belongings, which are in the back seat somewhere, and find the clothes that you need and then change them. Usually what I do is I just change while I'm inside my sleeping bag, so there aren't any privacy issues. Of course, I could solve some of that by putting up like reflectix on the windows, and I have a roll of reflectix back there in case it becomes too big of a problem, but I want to use that for my bus instead. So it's not like there aren't solutions to changing clothes in your car. It's just that it's extremely inconvenient, and so it doesn't necessarily happen as much as I would like it to. So my reason number 8 why I don't like living in a car is the lack of shower. So I think I mentioned in the positives about living in a car that taking a shower isn't really a problem, and finding showers isn't a problem, and it really isn't a problem. Problem is, I don't really like using public showers. The ones I use have turned out to be fairly clean, but I wouldn't have the option of taking a shower like when I'm at this park out here, but there's no shower. So again, I've seen lots of solutions to this particular problem, but it always ends up being kind of overly complex, and I'm not really willing to invest my time or money into it. Besides, using some sort of solution to taking a shower becomes incredibly inconvenient, and if it's too inconvenient, a lot of the time I'm just not going to do it. So it's definitely one of the top reasons why I don't like living in my car. So my number 7 reason why I don't really like living in my car, campgrounds will often kind of keep their eye on you a little more than usual, I think. At least the ones that I've been to, the rangers will be watching you. Once they get to know me and they've seen me a few times, it's not that big of a deal, but there's a lot of kind of shady people that live in their car, and people doing kind of weird things when they live in their car. And so I always feel like I'm having to put in an extra effort to make sure I'm not doing anything that looks suspicious or shady. And it's just and it's kind of like the social stigma. It's not a big deal. I don't really care that much what other people think, but at the same time, I just don't want to deal with it all the time. So the funny thing is, as I'm sitting here editing this video, a park ranger comes out of nowhere. I've never seen a park ranger here before, and he just wants to know what's going on. He said what I was doing is totally fine. It's just he's checking in on me, of course. It's the kind of thing that if I was in a different vehicle, it probably wouldn't happen the same way. So the number 6 reason why I don't like living in my car is that there's just no room for anything. So I have the bare essentials, and that's it. I know there's a lot of people who do things like taking out their seats, but again, this car is financed. I don't really want to put work into it. I just want to sell it as soon as possible. So storage is a big issue. I've found that basically anything that I don't immediately need, I just put it in my storage unit. And it does really kind of require you to have some sort of storage unit or a friend's house or a family member's house to store stuff, because there's just because it's just not that likely that you're going to have room for everything that you need all the time. So the number 5 reason why I don't enjoy living in my car is just spending time indoors because it's like raining outside or something. It's really no fun at all. I mean, in some ways it's a good thing because it forces me to just constantly be outside doing stuff, which is what I enjoy doing. So it forces me to actually do the things I enjoy doing rather than me just being lazy. But at the same time, there are days where I actually don't want to go outside and I actually have things to do, like I have to edit videos, I have to respond to emails, all kinds of stuff like on my iPad. And yeah, I can do it in the car, but it just sucks. So, it would be better to have a vehicle with a little bit more space so that I'm not just sitting constantly in the driver's seat, and that's about it. So the number 4 reason why I don't like living in my car is that there is a lot less privacy in here than there would be in other types of vehicles. This is like the base model Hyundai Elantra, so none of the windows are tinted at all. In some ways, it's worked out okay because at night the windows just pretty much immediately fog up, and so that kind of gives a nice glazing over the windows so people aren't just constantly staring at me. But during the day, like if I'm eating lunch, people will just be walk by and just like staring at me like, "What are you doing? What a weirdo." And it's again not a huge deal, but I always have to end up doing it inside a sleeping bag. And yes, I could put up reflectix, but again, I'm not wanting to invest anything in this car. And it's still a lot of hassle just to get even a small amount of privacy. So the number 3 reason why I don't like living in a car is probably a little bit more unique to me, but I think other people can relate if they have any hobbies or interests outside of just spending time outside. And that is, I can't put a piano in my car. Obviously, there's no room, and even if I could, technically I can put my piano in the car, but I can't play it in here. I've put the piano in the car very many times, but you just can't do anything with it. And for me, that sucks. I'm trained as a classical pianist. That's what I did for about 5 years before the pandemic hit, both teaching and performing on the piano. And obviously I can't do that here. It's just not an option. So, again, it's just not enough space. So the number 2 reason why I don't like living in my car is the lack of indoor cooking. So I don't mind cooking outdoors, actually. It's fun until it gets cold, and then everything takes twice as long to heat up. The stove stops working properly, and it's just not a great situation. It's a lot better just to be able to actually heat things up indoors. I have come up with ways of doing it in the car, but I have to be really careful, and I try to avoid it if at all possible. So the number 1 reason why I really don't like living in my car is the lack of refrigeration. There are lots of ways that you can live without refrigeration, so you can eat lots of dried things, which is what I do. It's cold enough that a lot of times you can just store things sitting in the car, and I've done that in the past when it gets down below about 40 degrees. I can just leave something in the car and it's fine. Refrigerators have to be set down so they're right below 40 degrees, so that's not a big deal. But unfortunately, that means that most of the time when I'm eating, it's not fresh food. It's something dried, it's something store-bought, and it's just not ideal for me. I know a lot of people don't do any cooking and they just eat out all the time, but that's expensive and oftentimes not particularly healthy. So I try to avoid it whenever possible. And unfortunately, because I don't have refrigeration, that means that I'm not eating as well as I could, and I'm just not eating the kinds of foods that I'd like to eat. Now, there are ways of adding refrigeration to your car, but again, it starts taking up lots of space and means buying lots of expensive extra batteries. When I move into the bus, I do have plans on getting refrigeration going as soon as possible, and that will be a big relief. So that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see some of the different products that I use, check my Amazon affiliate links down below. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you on the next video.